Hello and welcome to Benzinga's virtual event, Driving the Future with Electric Vehicles. I'm Chris Katje, reporter and content creator here at Benzinga. I'm so pleased to be kicking off today's program as electric vehicles have been a topic I often cover and see the excitement from companies, readers, and viewers about this growing industry. Before we get started, let's roll that intro video. All right. As electric vehicle companies continue to emerge and traditional automakers transition to more and more electric vehicle options for consumers, investors want to know which companies will win in the electric vehicle race and which other areas could be the winners from growth in the sector. In 2022, over 10 million electric cars were sold globally, an increase of 55% year over year. Estimates call for electric vehicle sales to increase another 35% in 2023 to 14 million units. In the United States, electric vehicle sales were up 6% in 2022. Electric vehicle market share globally has more than tripled in the last 3 years, going from 4% in 2020 to 14% in 2022. And it's not just electric vehicle manufacturers that could benefit. Many use the term pick and shovels plays for the companies that can benefit in growth in a sector. Here at Benzinga, we call these companies the things behind the thing, the companies that can shine and could be better investments as they offer up growth from the entire sector. Over the next 90 minutes, we're going to hear from several industry leaders, experts on these topics, and more. You'll hear from companies involved with batteries, charging infrastructure, power conversion, and ETFs, and we're so glad to have you here for it. Before we get started, I want to briefly thank our sponsors. A big Benzinga thank you goes out to Volt Equity, Hillcrest Energy Technologies, New Inc., and Wallbox for their support of this webinar. A quick thank you as well to our technology partner, Daily Hunt. If you enjoyed today's programming, check out Benzinga's upcoming live and virtual events at benzinga.com/events. We at Benzinga are committed to ramping up our virtual events and webinars in the coming weeks and are planning to bring you some really timely, compelling, and exciting program that will be led by Benzinga's award-winning content and editorial teams. We'll be hosting a live webinar every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Now let's get today's program underway. Up first for our Driving the Future with Electric Vehicles virtual event is Jess, Bala, the Director, Cadillac Planning and Product Strategy. And due to time zone restraints, this interview was pre-recorded. And without further ado, here is that conversation with Jess from Cadillac. Everyone, thanks for tuning in to our electric vehicles virtual event today. I have the pleasure to be joined by Jess Bala, the Director of Planning and Product Strategy at Cadillac. Jess, how are we doing today?
I'm good, thanks, Chris. Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. We're so excited to have you as part of this virtual event to cover the growth of the electric vehicle industry. And I'm so excited to have you on because I know that you've been with General Motors, one of the leaders in the automotive sector, for multiple years. You've served multiple roles. So my first question for you is, as you've worked with GM over these years, how have you seen the shift to electric vehicles evolve for the company?
Yeah, so GM envisions a world with zero crashes to save lives, zero emissions so we can provide future generations and they can inherit a healthier planet, and then zero congestion so that customers can get back such a precious commodity that we've seemed to have lost a lot of over the years, which is time. And every one of GM's new light-duty vehicles that will be sold in the US will be fully electric by 2035. And we are proudly the first and only full-line automaker to do this. But Ultium really underpins this for the company, which is our dedicated battery platform, and it takes us straight to our end game of a zero emissions future. So it comes with a common set of battery cells and components and a very flexible architecture. And with that, we are prepared to scale to produce more than 1 million units in North America in 2025. So at GM, we are guided by this vision for 000 and committed to an electric and autonomous future for the globe.
Love that. So, Jess, we know, of course, that General Motors CEO Mary Barra recently announced a charging partnership with Tesla. So, how can companies like General Motors and Tesla, that are rivals in the automotive field, also work together to collaborate on growing the electric vehicle sector and adoption globally for everyone who wants an electric vehicle?
Yeah, so we at GM and at Cadillac as well are very committed to putting the customer at the center of everything that we do. So with that, we're exploring all avenues we can to make EV adoption easier for our customers. GM is committed to collaborate with all other industry leaders to help accelerate the deployment of vital charging infrastructure, whether that's expanding charging access to charging across residential, workplace, and public charging, and really working together to align to a single charging standard ahead of millions of EVs hitting the road in the years to come. Not only that, we are adopting under this new agreement the North America charging standard starting in 2025, and we will continue to support our vehicles that have CCS charging standard that are already in market today. This is a very long-term decision to move the industry to one unified standard, and we believe that North America charging standard, or NACS, is the right way to do that.
Jess, since working with Cadillac, you've been instrumental in moving that well-known brand to electric vehicles. So we have the upcoming Escalade IQ. How is this SUV different from some of the competition in the sector out there?
Yeah, so the Escalade has dominated the full-size luxury SUV market for over 25 years. In fact, one of every 3 vehicles that are sold in that segment is an Escalade. And with the Escalade IQ, we're changing that game completely. It is truly the purest form of Escalade because we started with the all-new EV intended platform. This approach provided us a blank canvas to create a modern masterpiece of luxury and innovation. The Escalade IQ offers the very best advancements in technology, craftsmanship, and design to dramatically enhance customers' everyday life. And to be honest, we think nothing will come close to this incredible vehicle.
That's awesome to hear. Now, the Escalade IQ offers a third row, and I've seen that you've recently shared about how important more space in electric SUVs is important for families. So how can Cadillac help onboard more users to the electric vehicle sector by catering to the family segment with that third row offering?
Yeah, so Chris, I'll answer your question a little bit backwards and start with the last bit first. So Cadillac as a brand is defining luxury transportation, and by the end of the decade, we will be in a position to offer a fully electric portfolio. We launched the Lyriq last year and it's already on sale, and that really hits at the heart of that SUV market. We've also revealed the Celestiq and now the Escalade IQ, which will be our 2 flagship EVs. And we will be filling the portfolio with more EVs to be announced later this year, ultimately offering a full showroom and creating choice for luxury customers that will help drive EV adoption. On the third row, and specifically, our data shows that the third row is crucial to all SUV customers, regardless of EV or ICE. It is consistently in the top reasons for purchase for all of our SUV segment customers, but especially those larger SUVs in the SUV 4 and 5 segments. And when we break it down further and look at how important it is for young families who are very much buying our XT6 today, it is the 7th most important reason for buying the vehicle. And if you look at those younger families and buyers that are actually under the age of 34, third row seating is the top most important reason for purchase.
Wow, thanks for that insight. Myself, a family of 5, I know how important that third row can be when looking at new vehicles. So I'm excited to see Cadillac really driving home, that segment for EV adoption. So as we've revealed the Cadillac Escalade IQ, to the public, to the world, what have some of those initial reactions been, from potential customers, from analysts, and people within the auto sector?
Yeah, I mean, the reaction to the Escalade IQ has been overwhelmingly positive. And after the reveal yesterday, traffic to our website was enormous. The most popular features have been the exterior design, which is stunning and truly lives up to Escalade's bold brand promise. But the biggest reaction we've seen has been to the 450 miles of estimated pure EV range and our giant 55-inch pillar-to-pillar screen, which is on the interior of the car. But all in all, it is just a truly amazing and stunning vehicle.
Awesome. So we know how important marketing and word of mouth can play in the automotive segment, return customers, brand loyalty. So how will Cadillac and General Motors go about marketing the Cadillac Escalade IQ to existing customers with GM and new customers from rival companies?
Yeah, so we actually have a full 360 campaign going live August 10th. And that's really rooted in the cultural insight that many people are going through a personal renaissance right now, where they're changing careers or where they live. And that aligns with Cadillac as a brand as we're going through a renaissance of our own as we change our entire lineup over to EVs. And what better proof of that than reimagining our most iconic vehicle, which is the Escalade, to an EV as well. Not only that, to help tell our story, we've partnered with Simu Liu, who himself went through a personal renaissance from accountant to an esteemed actor. And this campaign will lean into the amazing features offered on the IQ, like the 450 miles of range, Super Cruise, and that stunning 55-inch screen.
Awesome. Can't wait to see some of those advertisements. Jess, to wrap things up here, as I said at the top, you have led several roles with General Motors over the years, and it was recently announced that you will be taking on a new role later this year in September, as you were named the new managing director for General Motors Australia and New Zealand. Talk to our viewers a little bit about how you'll take some of the lessons you learned with Cadillac and these other segments and help grow GM in those regions.
Yeah, I guess, well, judging by my accent, you can probably tell that actually I'm from Australia myself and actually started my own career with GM there back in 2007. So I'm super excited to be able to head home. We've been in the US now for 10 years, and I've managed and been fortunate enough to do a whole range of roles during my time here in Detroit at the headquarters for GM. And watching my old homeland from afar, they're going through a very much a transformation of their own, very similar to what GM is doing here right now, and exploring new ways of doing business and sort of thinking outside the box. So I'm super excited to be heading back home at this pivotal time in that market's, business right now, and being able to lead the awesome team that I know is there as well, and seeing so many familiar faces again.
Awesome. Well, congrats on the success with Cadillac, and
Thank
congrats
you.
on the new role. Once again, everyone, Jess Bala, Director of Planning and Product Strategy for Cadillac. Jess, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule and joining us on Benzinga today.
My pleasure, and thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And we will move back over to the desk for our next segment here on our virtual event covering electric vehicles.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Jess and Chris. Lovely interview. Great insight on what we can expect in the EV space. But we've got a great conversation continuing here as well. It's going to be with Michael Moe, who is the CEO of KULR Technology. Ticker on the NYSE is KULR. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, great. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to talk to you again. A lot of things have changed since the last time you were on, but if you could quickly just tell the viewers who may not have heard of this first conversation, what is it that your company does?
Yeah, at KULR, we develop energy management platforms to accelerate the transition to a sustainable electrification economy. And we provide the hardware and software solution for e-mobility applications and energy storage applications. The KULR One platform is built on our proprietary NASA-proven thermal management technologies to keep lithium-ion batteries safer, lighter, and cooler.
Now, I'm glad you brought up NASDAQ. That's exactly where I wanted to go. It looks like you had multiple contracts, new contracts since we last spoke. Any insight about those contracts? Because I believe you're the sole provider of the battery cell testing services for NASA.
Yeah, that's a really exciting development. NASA, as you may know, is really teed up to go to the moon by 2024 as part of their Artemis program. So as part of that, obviously they want their batteries to be as safe as possible. A very important part of that is their work instruction 37, that to screen and test the battery cells to be the highest safety rating possible. So we've been working with NASA for a long time. We started that program with them a couple years ago, and now we have built the fully automated, the world's only fully automated, scalable battery testing platform for NASA for the work instruction 37. So we're super excited to process all the battery cells that will meet the NASA safety standard to go to the moon.
I mean, when, growing up, obviously, whenever I thought of NASA, I would think of the moon, astronauts, planets, but it's cool in the direction that we're going here in the future. But let's go ahead and continue the conversation with other cool things that your company is doing, because I believe a couple of weeks ago, you went and announced a groundbreaking collaboration with a large cap in Serba Solutions. I'd love to know a little bit more about that collaboration, especially because I believe they partnered up with other big companies themselves, with Apple, Honda, Walmart, etc. What's the game plan with you two?
Yeah, no, this is a super exciting development for us. Serba Solution is the largest and the most comprehensive battery material management, the recycler in North America. As you mentioned, they partner some of the largest customers in the world are their customers, such as the consumer electronics companies, smartphone companies, EV companies. The last guest you had on is one of the customers, Gigafactories. So we become the exclusive provider of our SafeCase technology with Serba to serve these customers for their battery recycling needs. We believe that SafeCase is the best solution in the marketplace. It is a technology that we developed for NASA to be on board the International Space Station since 2019 to safely store the astronauts' laptops, tablets, and portable batteries. And since then, we work with Department of Transportation to have that technology adopted and have a special permit for that to transport safely recycled batteries, DDR batteries, and prototype batteries. Now we're working with Serba as the logistical partner to provide the SafeCase technology for all of these large OEMs, retailers, and operators. Super exciting.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up SafeCase. That's exactly where I want to go next. We've heard of so many unfortunate news of the lithium-ion battery failures and explosions and all that other good stuff, right? Maybe not particularly to your company, but just in general of that market space. Why is the SafeCase by your company kind of like the way to go? Why is that the solution? What separates it? What kind of gives you the advantage compared to, say, your competitors to handle such technology?
Yeah, I think the lithium-ion battery, as you mentioned, is the fire issue is becoming a little bit of a crisis for both New York City, other metropolitan areas, as well as EVs. And so we believe that SafeCase is the best solution on the marketplace from a technical perspective, from a regulatory perspective, and also from our business operation perspective. Technically, it is on the International Space Station. It's been on there since 2019. The technology is developed for NASA to safely store and transport batteries to use on the International Space Station. So we believe it's the best technology out there. And since then, we work with regulators such as Department of Transportation to get that from a space-proven technology to be used and permitted, tested for recycling applications. So we believe that's the highest energy capacity on the market for that application. Number three is to work closely with Serba and its OEM customers, like the ones that you just mentioned, smartphone makers, EV makers, largest retailers, to customize that for their particular applications. And the end result is a total lowest cost of ownership, lowest cost of operation solution for the customer, for the OEM. We believe that's the best solution in the market.
Now, the great thing about having the show here on Benzinga on the YouTube is that we can get questions from the viewers. I'd like to ask one right over here. You kind of touched on it, but we've got Easy Mike asking if lithium-based EV batteries are the end all, or if we can expect hydrogen or other based batteries. Any insight from your end?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a multi-solution future for us. I think hydrogen's got its place. I think electric vehicles obviously it's going leaps and bounds, and hybrids got its place. So I think at the end of the day, I think that fast charging, a very efficient, sustainable battery pack that is can go a long ways, but especially fast charging applications, I think that's going to be the future to reduce the range anxiety, and also to you don't need a huge battery on your in your car, because you can charge it up in 10 minutes. I believe a architecture like that is going to be the more sustainable future for us for electric vehicles.
And now, speaking of the future as well, this is kind of interesting stuff. I believe a few days ago, you had a drone delivery partnership. Before we get off air, I'd have to ask you to give me a little bit more insight on that one.
Yeah, it's truly exciting to be working with one of the largest e-commerce and drone delivery companies in the world. As you may know, that drone delivery is going to be a huge market, over $30 billion by 2028, not just for e-commerce, but for medical equipment, for medical supplies, for goods of all kinds in that. So it's truly exciting for us to see the KULR One platform to be adopted for drone delivery, adopted for electric aviation, energy storage, for DoD applications, such as the one we announced earlier this year for Army to use the KULR One platform to develop the silicon anode battery pack for the future of soldiers. So, and now, the next generation battery pack to go to the moon will be all screened by KULR, and we developed the KULR One space platform to go to the moon with some of the customers. And this is a truly exciting time for us.
Well, look, I don't know if I'll volunteer myself to go to the moon. I don't think I have the courage for that, but I will volunteer to check out those drones if you would like. No problem in that one. I'll send you my address. But before we go, though, Michael, anything else you want to tell our viewers before we hop off?
Yeah, well, thanks for being us or having us on the show. Actually, today we announced our Q2 earnings. We're up 300% year-over-year growth. We have expanding margins from 28% last year to low 40s in Q2 of this year. We expect this momentum to carry on for 2023 and accelerate into 2024. So super exciting time ahead for KULR.
Awesome. Appreciate that. We definitely will be paying attention quite closely, especially with everything else you're doing. Congratulations on the drone partnership and all the other things y'all are doing. I appreciate your time, and hopefully I'll have more conversations in the future. That is Michael Moe, who is the CEO of KULR Technologies, ticker KULR. Thank you so much, Michael.
Thank you.
All right. The show will continue. I'm going to see if my man Aaron is good to go so we can bring him on up. What's up, buddy?
What is up, Zunaid? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Before I go, if we had a drone competition between me and you, who do you think would win?
What?
A drone competition, like we raced a drone.
I've only flown a drone one time in my life. I don't know where that puts me in relation to you.
Did you crash it?
Yes and no. I mean, it was a cheap little drone that I think my mom got me off Amazon for like a Christmas present, probably in like 2018 or 2019. I was just flying around the house, got pretty good at it, and then I took it outside, and it was such a cheap, like, light drone that the wind outside, like, toppled it over.
I'm sure the chat will say that I'll win, but I'll go ahead and get out of here, pal. The show's all yours.
All righty, guys. We are going to keep the show ticking. I'm going to be talking to Tad Park from Volt Equity, and we're going to be talking about their autonomous vehicle ETF that is ticker VCAR. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring my man Tad Park on the stream. Tad, how you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. How are you doing, Aaron?
I'm great. Thanks for joining us. So, I guess let's just get started. Do you mind telling me and our audience a little bit more about this VCAR ETF?
Yeah. So, VCAR tries to capture the leaders in autonomous driving, and we currently have a very strong conviction that the leader is Tesla. And we think that there's a lot of things that are needed in order to achieve autonomous driving. And one of them is electric. You need an electric vehicle platform. and you would need to be able to control all aspects of the car. And we think that Tesla has all the things that are needed in order to have a successful autonomous driving program.
So are there any other, I guess, kind of leaders in the space, or is it, like Tesla far and away separate from the pack and then everyone else?
Yeah, so our viewpoint is that Tesla is actually far and away for widespread robotaxi, like a widespread robotaxi type deployment, though we think that others are close for specialized robotaxi deployment. So if you look at Cruise or GM or like different platforms out there, they can deploy on a city by city basis, and they might compete against Tesla from a city by city basis. But I think Tesla is the only one that can cross between cities. And we think that they're going to be first for like a nationwide type of deployment of autonomous vehicles.
Are there live robo taxis right now, like in the United States anywhere? I mean, I know some people, like in San Francisco, they're testing them, correct?
Yeah. So I see robo taxis all the time in San Francisco. Cruise, Waymo, just everyone just wants to test in San Francisco because it's a particularly challenging environment. But there's no live robotaxis on the Tesla side. It's because their approach is very different. They're very heavy on AI. So GM or Cruise and Waymo and the other autonomous vehicle platforms and companies, they try to make it work for the city, and that requires a lot of programming and a lot of software engineers that will make it work for that area. But the Tesla approach is very different because it's very generalized. So even if it's a city that never existed before and the car has never seen, it would be able to drive in that city. And I think that type of solution is very different. So on one hand, it might seem like they are behind in some aspects, or, they can't handle this particular use case. But because they're using AI, when the AI gets there, they would have a solution that not only solves it for that city, but for all cities and for all situations that are similar. So it's very different. So it may seem like another company is closer from a narrow lens, but then from the big lens, we think that Tesla is ahead.
Yeah, I mean, from someone from that's kind of like on the outside looking in on this, it does seem like, I guess, would be hard to call Tesla the far and away leader if there are other companies that have robo-taxis on the road right now, but Tesla doesn't. But the way you explain it makes sense that they have a lot of different AI that will actually be, but I guess, Tad, does it like deter you at all as an investor that, Tesla or Elon Musk has kind of promised this like self-driving, robo-taxi for, years ago, and now it's 2023 and they're still working on it?
Yeah. So I wouldn't really take his word for it. So I'm not basing it upon his word, because his word is not, the track record is not that reliable in terms of strict timelines, and he'll admit to that. We're mainly tracking the technology, and I think the underlying technology, underlying approach, there has been like amazing strides in that field. So before, people thought that you needed LiDAR, you needed all these laser distancing and all that stuff. But just in the past couple of years, it's been proven that you can figure out distance from just the camera alone. That the AI is good enough that it knows exactly the depth of everything just from the camera alone, if the AI is advanced enough. So we're at the stage where you don't need all those, unnecessary contraptions on top of the car. And you could actually just with cameras drive a car around. And this was not possible 5 years ago. Like even if Elon said that this, you could drive around like 5 years ago, the technology was not there. So he was a little bit ahead of himself and thinking ahead of himself. But right now it is possible. Like there's research papers, there's all this stuff. It's very proven out that we are very close. In my opinion, we're closer than ever before to actually solving this from an AI standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, like you said, I mean, as an investor, you probably know that just because Elon says something or a date doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to be the case. So you got to look at these other things, like you said, research papers, et cetera, to know really how close it is. Because if you were listening to Elon again, you would have thought it was 2020. So Tad, we've talked mostly about Tesla. What are the other holdings in the VCAR ETF? Are there other holdings?
Yeah. So we hold NVIDIA, which we like a lot and has helped us a lot. AI is going to be the backbone of this next technological wave. It's very exciting to see, and we have also robotics tech like KUKA, which is the KUKA robotics that Tesla uses, and we hold a lot of the things that are in that ecosystem. But yeah, we really like NVIDIA as well, because NVIDIA, Microsoft, a lot of those names are going to power this new revolution, because AI is going to really change the world that we see and the way that we interact with the world in many ways. And we're just starting to see how that's going to happen.
Got it. And then so in terms of, you mentioned, I guess, kind of the next few steps that Tesla's technology needs to take. But I mean, what are the big things that needs to happen in the next 5-10 years before we see a more, it's more common to see autonomous cars driving on the road?
Yeah, I think that we need, I think we could basically just wait. In terms of hardware, we're there in terms of hardware. I think that there's enough in a Tesla right now to be able to drive by itself. So mainly it's a matter of software. And I actually drive a FSD beta in my Model Y myself. So I have it drive me from point A to point B. It's not perfect. It makes mistakes every once in a while. But I think just
are these mistakes ones that you need to override the system on, or
yes.
that you? Okay.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm not gonna oversell it as if, oh, it can totally take me and I'm just gonna trust it, trust it in my family, no problem. But I do think that that's part of it. It's training the AI algorithm. Like every time I take over, I'm training it. And what I really care about is not really where it's at right now. It's not there right now, but it's where it's going. And what I see is when I first was on the FSC beta program, I was taking over all the time. And it was just, 10 times in a 30-minute trip. And slowly, I see after every update, it's like, okay, it was 10 times, 10 times, 10 times for all these updates. And then suddenly it goes down to 7 times or 6 times and 5 times. And then now it's down to 2 times or 1 time. And then when I see the pace of improvement, then I'm thinking, okay, I know this is just this area, but I know that this improvement is happening for everybody at the same time because it's a generalized solution. So I do think that eventually with this curve, they're going to accelerate the rate at which they're going to improve. It's not linear. So if it took 6 months to do it before, it's going to suddenly take 3 months to improve the same amount, and then 2 months, and it just keeps increasing. So I'm really excited and bullish on the technology and what will happen, especially with all the investments that people have been making into AI and how AI hardware can actually improve the results of the AI models. So with NVIDIA and Tesla and different companies coming out with better and better hardware to train their models, they can feed that data in and get better results. So I'm really excited about the future in this space.
Yeah, I'm glad we got a chance to talk, I guess, about the technical parts of the self-driving technology and software, because we talk a lot about self-driving from the investing perspective, what it'll mean for Tesla, what it means for NVIDIA, what it means for Ford, et cetera. But to actually talk about the technical parts of it, helps me understand it a little bit better. And I mean, like you said, I mean, these things, especially with that AI and machine learning technology behind it, it's going to be exponential how quickly these things get better. And my biggest thing, Tad, is that I think from here on out, anytime there are any types of like crashes, God forbid something bad things happen where self-driving or Tesla FSD is involved, people like in the media and stuff is gonna freak out about it. But the bottom line is like there are car crashes that happen every single day. So if there are a few crashes along the way and this thing getting better and the AI, getting better and stuff, then like that's probably just part of the journey.
Yeah, totally. In the beginning, people were really scared of trains, before they had races between horses and trains and things like that. And whenever there's a new disruptive technology, it's natural for people to feel a little bit of fear. And I think it might even blow it out of proportion, because you might save, way more lives and tens of thousands of lives with self-driving technology. But people are only focusing on, oh, look at what happened here, look at what happened there, instead of the big picture. And that's going to be a headwind, but that's been common with every disruptive technology, that most people will take a while to get used to the idea of such a different way of thinking, different way of life.
100%. Well, Tad, thank you so much for joining us on Benzinga's electric vehicle event. It's always it's been great to meet you and catch up with you. So if you ever want to get back on in the future and tell us some more updates about the VCAR ETF, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, great. Likewise. And it's my pleasure.
All right, Tad, enjoy the rest of your Thursday. All righty, y'all. It is 11:36 a.m. Eastern. Bring my man, actually, I don't know who... Chris. We're bringing Chris back up next. My man, Chris Katje. Chris, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I think we're actually going to go to Zunaid next here to talk to New.
All right. Well, we'll play some musical chairs here. Bring Zunaid in, rotate me out, and, just keep it ticking.
See, the reason you didn't want to bring me on is because you knew I'd beat you in a drone race. It's okay. That's fine. Don't worry about it. No worries.
Well, we have to settle this, but I want another... Can we have another event too? Like a drone. We need to have a drone race and then a drone, like, they do a horse race and then the horse like jumps and stuff too.
I mean, look, I'm 5'7". Horse racing it might be the only place where my height comes in my favor. So yeah, look, I'm down with that. No problem.
All right, cool. We'll figure out a whole like gauntlet of different drone games we can do, and then let's do it. That'd be good content. We should do that.
We should. I got you. We'll schedule it in. But I appreciate your interview, pal. Let's go ahead and keep the show moving on as well. Next up, we've got Mark Hanchett, who is the founder and CEO of New. Ticker on NASDAQ is NXU. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. We appreciate your time this morning as well. A lot of great things for us to talk about, get into the gritty aspect of your companies. But for the folks at home that might not be familiar, could you tell me what is it that your company does?
Yeah, so New is a technology company currently focused on manufacturing battery cells, pack solutions, charging and infrastructure technology, and deploying that and operating that. So our main focus is on the infrastructure and energy space. That's really the current bottleneck in this EV adoption sort of thing that's happening now.
Now, speaking of EV, it's a technology that you call the standard agnostic, right? What exactly does that mean, and why should the viewers care about it?
Yeah, so what you're talking about is on the charging and infrastructure side. So today it's a little bit of VHS versus Betamax competition, or beta, competition. And today the debates are around, say, CCS versus NACS, and we've seen a lot of transitions from CCS over to the NACS standard, which is what Tesla had created. However, that only covers up to a certain market segment. It doesn't necessarily branch off into medium and heavy duty commercial markets where megawatt technology solutions are really going to be the future. And we believe megawatt plus technology is the future of even the passenger car market. So we want to make sure that we are building technology and solutions and adopting technology and solutions that are the best that exist out in the market today. And I would say that CCS versus NECS, the CCS handle, the inlet, that is a phenomenal sort of design. It's small and it's compact, but it's limited. And we want to focus on just, whatever the best thing is, whatever the market really needs at this moment in time, and then also be focused on what is the next thing that comes after that.
And something that concerns me whenever I'm looking at a car, which I recently purchased one, is like, or folks talk about on the timeline, is, hey, what does it take to kind of break even when you buy an EV car? Right? They compare gas prices, energy costs, all that other good stuff. So I want to kind of focus on the infrastructure that we have in place and what's kind of coming up. So do you think that we can go ahead and handle all this new demand with the grid? Are you concerned about energy costs that are rising to outweigh the benefits of an EV at all?
So there are challenges. There are areas where it's not challenging, and then there are areas where it is challenging. As you move from urban to rural use cases, it becomes much more challenging to facilitate a consistent experience in the infrastructure, and some of the more rural areas is not necessarily up to par. And even in some high dense urban areas, it becomes very, very challenging. So do I think that today's infrastructure is capable of doing this? I think that if our focus is on infrastructure, we're kind of missing a bigger picture here. And you mentioned energy, where there are new technologies coming, no pun intended, but around energy storage, virtual power plants, charging and infrastructure that is going to reduce the sort of risk associated with the current grid infrastructure problems that we have today. Where I don't think that, today we can make it work. Today we have technology that can actually make this possible now. We just need to accelerate pushing that technology out there, getting that connected to the end customer so they can have that positive experience, so we can accelerate adoption.
And as I mentioned, I just purchased a vehicle. Something that I had is what a lot of people call range anxiety, right? Because I went to a wedding a couple of years ago. My cousin and I left at the same exact time. She got home an hour later because she had to stop and charge her vehicle, and it took a little bit longer because there was a line. Where do you feel like the technology is going in terms of the future of the battery? And do you feel like it'll be less and less scary to have that range anxiety? Especially, is there anything that your company, NEW, is doing about it?
Yeah, so our focus is on building the infrastructure so range anxiety becomes a side thought, right? It sort of becomes history. And the way we're doing that is focusing on the charging and energy infrastructure components of that particular solution, building those charging systems out there, but putting them in the areas that are not necessarily high density areas, but what you're talking about, right? If you want to take a road trip, you want assurances that when you need it or when you want it, it is there. And that needs to be the primary driving factor, the primary driving sort of experience that all of us are striving for. So NEW is focused on deployment of energy storage and charging infrastructure to make that possible.
When it comes to the future in terms of what pipeline which you have coming up next, what is it something that you want the folks to know about? Any innovations that you're working on? Anything that you'd like to share with us before we dive into the next questions?
Yeah, so NEW, in founding and starting, we really wanted to focus on the gaps in the industry and the things that sort of move people from that no to the yes. So if you think of NEW, yes, we make our own cells, we make our own packs. That is really centered around the infrastructure piece, but also that future where when you plug in, it only takes 15 minutes to charge your vehicle. So imagine,
Wow. Okay, nice.
Today, very few are going to plug in when it's zero, but imagine, plugging in when it's zero and going to 100% in 15 minutes. In order for that to actually be possible, even though we've proven that we can do it on the battery side, we have to build the infrastructure piece too. They are not mutually exclusive sort of products or systems. So we are developing it on both sides of that and working towards tying those two pieces together. Yeah,
and I'm glad I asked that question because it looks like we had a similar one from the chat as well. Is there anything you want to expand on that? Or would you like for me to move on to the next one?
So when it comes down to this problem, we've been developing the battery technology since 2018. We've sort of proven that out when we did our first prototype in 2018, where we charged a battery pack in 12 minutes 47 seconds. But as you go through that, you realize that, to your prior questions, the grid, the infrastructure, those pieces, they don't exist, right? The technology to be able to provide the power to that particular vehicle to give you that experience and do it consistently, that doesn't exist. And there are no charging networks today that can guarantee you that if your vehicle asks for 350 kilowatts, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
So that's the egg, right? There's the chicken and egg problem. That's the egg. We're focused on hatching that egg. So therefore the chicken, can grow and thrive.
The thing behind the thing, something that we sure love here at Benzinga. I do want to, before we go, I want to give the floor to you. We've talked a lot about the energy, the lithium batteries, and I want to make sure that I give you the time to talk about anything else that you wanted to discuss with our viewers here today. The floor is yours.
Yeah. So what's interesting is earlier you mentioned energy cost is going up. And part of our mission, part of our vision, if you look at renewables, energy storage, the future of infrastructure is not hub and spoke power generation models. It's going to move towards decentralized generation through renewables, combine that with energy storage, leverage the grid as the interconnecting. Think of it like your internet services that you have today, right? In terms of how data is transmitted. If we look at that future, a big part of our vision and a big part of our mission is actually getting to a future where energy is abundant, it's available, it's incredibly inexpensive. And humanity at that point, the shift towards the next big thing is going to be profound. And we understand what the next big things are. And the next big things are solving some of the bigger challenges. Maybe it's water, maybe it's something else, but energy is a core component of that. So when we think about new and we think about where we're going, yes, we build, manufacture, develop technology. Yes, we're focused on this infrastructure piece, but it's with a goal in mind that the future is going to be, you no longer pay for how much you consume, you simply just pay for access. And then those things that you talk about, you want to travel, maybe when you get older or younger, and I would say try to do this when you're younger. You want to travel the world, you want to get in an RV and travel around the US, right, or wherever you are. Imagine a future where that is possible to do. And you can do that and not worry about everything else, right? Not worry about necessarily how much energy you're going to consume. What's the cost of gas, right? To be able to do that. That is a future that we're marching towards. And I think that's profound. That's powerful.
I look forward to being a part of that future for sure. And I do hope that my next vehicle that I purchase is an EV one, because I think I love the space that it's going to. No question about it. But thank you so much. That is Mark Hanchett, who is the founder and CEO of NIU. Ticker on NASDAQ is NXU. Thank you so much once again, Mark.
Thank you. Take care.
Awesome. You take care as well. That was a lovely interview. And we're going to continue on with a couple of more. So let me go ahead and bring my buddy Chris up, and so we can continue the conversation.
Awesome. Thanks, Zunaid, and thanks, Mark. That was a great interview. And next, I am pleased to welcome Mike Battaglia, the Chief Revenue Officer of Blink Energy, that ticker BLNK. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Chris. Appreciate you having me.
All right, Mike, I want to dive into second quarter financial results that were recently reported by Blink. You guys reported triple-digit growth for overall revenue, product revenue, services revenue, and other revenue. Walk viewers through some of the highlights from the second quarter and that triple-digit growth.
Yeah. So first of all, we recorded about just under $33 million worth of revenue in the second quarter. That represented 186% growth year over year. Significantly, we raised our guidance for full year to $110 to $120 million. So roughly speaking, we're on track to double the size of the business again this year, as we've done in the last couple of years. But our growth, as you indicated, Chris, was broad-based. It was across every category. We saw strength, and we feel pretty confident that we're going to continue to see that momentum build. One of the things that was really important for us in the second quarter, that was maybe one of the most important stats, is that we improved our gross margins from 21% in the first quarter up to 37% in the second quarter. So that really puts us in line with what we've guided to for the full year, which is that we would be at 30% gross margins for the year. So we are on track to accomplish that.
Awesome. So you mentioned guidance. Obviously, that's a key feature that investors and analysts are always looking at. So that guidance raise for the full year, what goes into, that confidence given, macroeconomic concerns and everything going on in the world? What goes into the confidence to raise that guidance for the full year?
Yeah. So one of the things I often say to my team is that there is almost not another industry on the face of the earth that's growing faster than the EV charging business and electric vehicle business in general, right? So, maybe AI, maybe there's a couple others that are right up there. But what is fantastic about our business and our business model is that we are agnostic across all channels. So if there is a parking spot that a vehicle is going to be parked and it's electric and it needs to charge, Blink can be there. So when we look at our different channels, it's not coming from just one area. It's coming from government fleet with our contract with the United States Postal Service. It's coming from the automotive industry and the confidence level that the dealers have and the OEMs have put in Blink in order to help dealers build out that infrastructure coast to coast. So it's a combination of the activity we're seeing across vertical markets. It's a combination of the backlog that we have in the business and the forecast that we have, obviously, what we think we're going to do for the balance of the year. So, we bring all those things together just like a lot of other companies do, and we make a call and we think we're pretty safe.
Love that. Another key item that investors and analysts are always watching is, profitability. And Blink said that you're expecting positive adjusted EBITDA run rate by December 2024. What gets the company there, and why is it such an important milestone moving forward?
Yeah, one of my favorite questions. So when I joined Blink almost 3 years ago to the day, if I'm not mistaken, we had 63 employees and, low double-digit revenue. And you fast forward to today, and again, our guidance being $110 to $120 million in 2023. We have over 600 employees now. So we've spent the last 3 years building the beast, so to speak, really taking advantage of the growth that was inherent in the market, building out the corporate infrastructure to support that growth. And so now we're in the next phase of our life cycle, right? And that is to focus on very, very hard KPIs to become a disciplined business that has expenses under control, that gets to a level of profitability, and then eventually free cash flow. So we're focused on all those things. The management team has really transitioned the strategy, the thinking, all of those things that the market would expect from a growth company to a profitable company.
So a term that we hear a lot is vertical integration. I mentioned earlier in the program the thing behind the thing, Blink charging, one of those pick and shovel plays in EV. Walk us through, though, how Blink is, vertically integrated within the charging infrastructure sector and why that makes the company stand out to some of your competitors.
Yeah, so there is a few different ways to participate in the EV charging infrastructure market. And one option is you take a piece of hardware, you take a piece of software that are separate, you put them together, and you kind of deploy them into the market and you hope they work. The problem we see with that model is that if something goes wrong somewhere along the line, where is it wrong? Who are you pointing to as a customer? Are you pointing to the software provider? Are you pointing to the hardware provider? Are you pointing to both? And then on top of that, are you then looking somewhere else for installation services, et cetera? So we believe in this environment where uptime, reliability is critically important in the market right now as we begin to grow. That being vertically integrated for Blink is the right move. And what that means is that we provide the hardware that we manufacture ourselves, we provide the network software, which we develop ourselves, and we provide full turnkey installation services for our clients. So we give them, in effect, one-stop shopping where they can hold us accountable for the quality of the implementation. And we believe that that is critically important in this market. One of the themes that we hear time and time again as we're talking to customers is that uptime, reliability are the most important things. It trumps price. It trumps kind of everything else that you could think of kind of in that deployment chain.
Love that. Another topic that's hugely discussed right now is this North American charging standard. I guess a two-part question. Were you surprised that Tesla and some of these other companies have now partnered on a charging standard, GM and Ford? And then how does Blink kind of take over and benefit from this new charging standard moving forward?
So one of the great parts about being at Blink is that we are agnostic in terms of connector type. So whether it's CCS, whether it's CHAdeMO, whether it's NACS, we can pivot extremely quickly. We're very, very flexible. We have the hardware, the software that enables us to do that. So when you ask, were we surprised? I would say that most people were surprised, right? I'd be lying if I said, hey, this thing didn't come pretty quickly, right? It came really quite quickly. But for us, we were excited about where this is going because, when you look at the market, 90% of all the kilowatt hours that will be dispensed are going through level 2 chargers, and only about 10% are going to go through DC fast charging. Now, that is from McKinsey, that's from PwC, that's from tons of independent research that's getting done. So that's not just from Blink. If you look at that, we're predominantly an L2 company today. Our DC business is growing, but we're predominantly L2. And our number one customer for our L2 chargers are Tesla drivers. They just happen to be using that adapter now. So for us, we can simply move to a combination of CCS and NACS, or eventually all NACS, however the OEMs decide to go, however the market decides to go. We can pivot quickly, but for us, we view this as a net positive, and we're excited to come out with the products that we've announced to accommodate that.
Thanks for that color, Mike. Last question here. We always like to pay attention to our readers, our viewers, and I did see a question in the chat about some M&A activity. I know you're focused on profitability moving forward, but any comment on maybe some opportunities for some consolidation in the charging infrastructure space? Is that something that Blink's looking at currently?
Yeah, so if you look at our track record over the last few years, we've acquired a number of companies. I would say that at the moment, we are focused on integrating the companies that we have acquired, which we've been doing very successfully. So making sure that we are as efficient as possible with the entities that we have under our umbrella, making sure that it's one Blink, and we talk about that consistently. This needs to be one Blink. Now, we are by nature in a pretty acquisitive company. I think we will continue to be. We absolutely believe strongly that there is going to be consolidation in this market. There's just no question about it. So for us, we always have one eye on acquisition opportunities. We will continue to do that, when it makes sense and when the time is right.
Awesome, Mike. Thanks for that color once again. All right. Well, Mike Battaglia, Chief Revenue Officer, Blink Charging, that ticker again, BLNK. Mike, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. It was enjoyable.
All right. Another great interview here on Driving the Future with Electric Vehicles. It's time to turn once again to my man, Aaron, for another exciting interview. What's going on, man?
What is up, Chris? Thank you for that great interview. I'm going to keep it ticking. I'm talking to Dan Curry from Hillcrest Energy Technologies. That is going to be, Don, not Dan Curry, from Hillcrest Energy Technologies. That is going to be ticker HLRTF if you're here in the United States in the OTC markets, or ticker HEAT, HEAT, if you're on the Canadian Stock Exchange. So let's welcome Don on the show. Don, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks very much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking time out of your busy Thursday. So let's start here. Why don't you just tell us a little bit more about Hillcrest Energy Technologies, what you guys do, and kind of what value you guys are driving toward investors right now?
Sure, we're very excited to talk about the company. We in 2 short years we've gone from an idea to a proof of concept to a commercial prototype, and we're in development discussions with 7 different organizations right now. 5 of which I could argue would be household names. We've been able to develop and put into a commercial prototype, first market mover, first market status, a revolutionary 0 voltage switching platform. It's a platform that is basically soft switching. We've been able to take it to this level. It's agnostic to the use, although we are focusing at the beginning on the EV sector for various reasons. But at this point in time, we're very, very, very excited about the opportunity. The company itself, first mover status, well-connected individuals, decades worth of experience within the company. And like I say, it's we're poised to go to the next level.
So what Don exactly is a power converter and or a power inverter? Sorry, excuse me. And I'm not the most like technical guy, so if you can try to do it in layman's terms that a dumb guy like me can understand, that'd be helpful.
Yeah, it's pretty simple actually. The inverter basically takes direct current to alternating current. So if you look at an EV, the battery is direct current and the motor is alternating current. So it needs to be, the power needs to be converted. And right now, every motor in an EV has an inverter attached to it. Some cars, EVs have 2, 3, 4 motors in it. So each one of them requires an inverter to be able to convert that power. If you go outside the car and you look at the battery charger, following Blink, if you look at the battery charger, that's AC and it needs to convert to DC to get back to the battery. So there's an inverter is needed. It basically drives the car. At the end of the day, it takes the power and drives the car.
Yeah, and so what makes, I guess, Hillcrest's inverters unique? I mean, I'm sure there are other inverters on the market.
Yeah. Zero voltage switching is what makes ours unique, in that basically the zero voltage switching has its higher switching frequencies. It eliminates the switching losses, and it has a thermal control to it. So it gives the EV the ability to have more power. It also moves forward with some other cost savings with the use of the zero voltage switching that can result in up to, we've estimated, can result in up to about $2,200 per car savings to the OEM. When they're manufacturing these cars, $2,200 is a substantial amount. This increases the efficiency. Our inverter is 99.6% efficient, which is the highest efficiency that we're aware of. But what does that do to the overall system? To the overall system, we've shown an increase of as high as 13% to the motor efficiency. We've demonstrated the ability to reduce battery size by as much as 15%, $1,500 or 300 pounds coming off the car. So it's an overall system. There are inverters out there right now. Hard switching inverters are what are in most EVs, and they don't present the cost saving or the efficiency level that we're talking about.
Got it. And so, Don, I know that you recently announced progress with 2 co-development partners. Can you tell us a little bit more about these projects and your other customer engagements?
Sure. We have 7 companies, as I said, that we're engaged with right now in development. The 2 main ones, we reference them as a global tier 1 supplier. Global tier 1 suppliers are anywhere from $7.5 to $20 billion in value, 20 to 50,000 people. And they are looking to go into a new area. It's innovative. Right now, our inverter is nominally 250 kilowatt, 800 volt. They want an optimized version, which is a 350 kilowatt, or up to 1,000 volt. We have now passed milestone 2 with them, or about to pass milestone 2 with them, to be very accurate. Been a very, very good working relationship with that company. They have made access to their motors to be able to show and demonstrate that the technology works. The European OEM that we've been talking about, again, a premium European OEM, we have now gone past levels whereby they have given us access to their motors. We've attached the technology to it, our inverter technology to it. We've done very, very well. We've either met or exceeded expectations in the tests that we've done with them, and are now moving into what we would consider to be definitive commercial agreement discussions. So the technology itself, zero voltage switching, is not something that's new. We're just the first that we're aware of to put it in a commercial prototype to be able to demonstrate it with their actual application. And in both of those cases, we've demonstrated that, and now moving into milestone 3 and 4, which is basically discussing into the commercial definitive agreements.
Got it. So it sounds like you still need to be a little bit hush-hush on maybe who some of these manufacturers are, but based on the size that you're laying out of them, that there's only maybe a handful of companies that they could be.
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, the companies themselves will want to keep their names between us until such time as the definitive agreement is in place. That's just normal in the business. You'll you'll see announcements a lot that people have signed with a European OEM or North American OEM, so on and so forth. They are recognizable companies. They are big name. The companies we're talking to, we're looking for volume. These are the type of companies that aren't 2,500 to 3,000 units per year. We're looking at the multiple tens of thousands units per year per agreement, should we get to that level. So I would say that the names will be disclosed once a commercial definitive agreement is signed, and we're probably not that far away from that. I would hope by the end of the year that we're openly discussing the names.
Got it. Don, can you walk me through the ZVS technology a little bit?
Again, it's soft switching. So in hard switching, the best way to talk about it is peaks and valleys. So we're talking nanoseconds. These things are turning on and off tens of thousands of times in the second. And each time in a hard switching unit, it's like a peak. And every time there's a valley, there's a switching loss. There's a loss of efficiency. And there's negative effects that come with that, but it's just all that's available right now. The negative effects, electrical magnetic interference, so on and so forth. The radiation coming from the inverter causes damage, long-term damage, or has to be protected against. So there are some OEMs that will pay for protective shielding around cables, around the battery box to protect against the hard switching inverter. The soft switching inverter has less EMI. We've demonstrated this to the OEM, and we've talked about it publicly. It has less EMI to the point where it could result in no protective shielding being required, a cost saving for the OEM, but there's no long-term damage to the cables or to the battery box. So that's a key component. Well, efficiency is something that everybody wants in the electrical field. There are certain cost-saving measures that can be presented or can be provided by using zero-voltage switching. And zero-voltage switching is basically switching in a de-energized state. So we've been able to figure out, our technical teams, through our partnership with the Systematic in Germany and our software capabilities here, the control system capabilities here, we've been able to figure out that unique combination of hardware and software combined to be able to provide this commercial prototype for the soft switching, zero voltage switching.
Got it. Well, Don, we're kind of running up on time here. Is there anything at all that we haven't gotten to that you would like to speak on for a minute?
Look, at the end of the day, I think the reason that we would hope people would look at the company is we have first mover status. We have demonstrated in a very quick period of time, 2 years to go from an idea to commercial prototypes and actual demonstrations is very, very, very quick. We're coming into the commercial definitive agreements. We have the team in place. Not only do we have expertise and competence, but we have networks to come with the people that are involved in our company. So we think we're a company that's on the cusp. We believe we're a company that's worth looking at. We have something the world doesn't have to this point in time. We look forward to being a leader in the industry.
Well, there you go, Don. Thanks again for joining us today on our Driving with the Future event here on Benzinga. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and then we'll speak again soon, okay?
Thank you very much. We really appreciate the opportunity to meet with some of your and share our story.
Of course. All right, guys, that was Don Curry from Hillcrest Energy Technology. Again, that is ticker HLRTF on the OTC markets if you're here in the United States, or ticker HEAT, HEAT, on the Canadian Stock Exchange. All right, guys, we've talked to a number of really exciting, really interesting companies in the electric vehicle space. We talked some autonomous driving as well. Let me know in the chat. Are you guys, where are you at in this whole electric vehicle journey? Are you, give me a 1 in the chat if you currently have an electric vehicle. Give me a 2 in the chat if you do not have one, but you've been looking. We'll say you're bi-curious with the electric vehicles, or a 3 in the chat if you're like, hell no, I'm keeping my ICE, my combustion engine, I'm keeping my truck. I like it. I don't want to switch to an electric vehicle. All right, Mel's curious. She's exploring some things, and Mel put a 2. Jillian's thinking about buying. All right, she's also a 2. ADX Texas says 3. All right, that's about what we expect from Texas down there. I don't know, actually. That's where that's where Tesla's like headquartered. So, all right. 2. All right, we've got a lot of curious people here in the chat. A lot of people that need to, might need to spend a semester taking some experimental classes, really exploring some things about themselves. All right, who is coming up next? Well, I don't see Zunaid, so I guess that means it's gotta be Chris. So we tried this last time. It was all right. Chris, how you doing?
Hey, you're batting 50% now.
I know. All I had to do was stick. All I had to do was stick with Chris, and I was gonna
That's
be
right. You were bound to get one. I love that question you asked, Aaron, with the chat. Myself, I don't own electric vehicles yet, but I'll tell you, I'm interested, and also my kids are, right? My kids have heard a ton about electric vehicles, and they're like, hey, when are we going to get an EV?
So hold on, your kids, what's your oldest is like 10 years old, right?
My oldest is 11, yeah. And
Okay.
they all want an electric vehicle. I mean, my youngest doesn't know as much, but my oldest two in school even, they've heard about, clean energy and the benefits and all that moving forward. So, I mean, it's definitely a shifting, global idea and, in the US as well.
There you go. Well, you got some time. It sounds like you got to get one before at least your oldest turns 16. So you got about 5 years.
I'm gonna get in trouble, right?
Yeah, you've got about 5 years. All right, Chris. Well, I'll turn it over to you, and I'll be hanging out backstage. And take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. Joining us next, we have Fryer Battery. We have Tom Jensen, the CEO. Tom, welcome to the program.
Chris, thank you for having us. It's a pleasure to be here.
It is great to have you, Tom, and I'm excited to have you on a day like today when Fryer has some news items out that we get to dive into and talk about. Up first, the big announcement from Fryer that a new CEO has been named, and you will be moving to chairman. Walk our viewers through who the new CEO is and their experience within the industry.
Yeah, so thank you, Chris. So it's a big day for Fryer. We announced our new incoming chief executive officer today. I mean, his name is Birger Steen, Norwegian guy, 30 years, tech savvy, scaling entrepreneur, I would say, with deep experience from Microsoft. So he ran Microsoft in Norway. He built up Microsoft in Russia. He has heavy experience at the board level with semiconductor industries, been a tech investor for a long time, and have sort of multiple scaling experiences in tech industries. So Fryer, for the uninvited, is a Norwegian startup who went public on the New York Stock Exchange back in 2021 via SPAC acquisition. And why that is relevant and interesting to the viewers of Benzinga listening to the previous conversation, in Norway, as you might know, Norway actually has 80 to 90% penetration of EVs, right? So new cars sold in the country is up to 90% of all cars sold. So on the roads in Norway today, you would find more than 20% of all the cars are EVs. So when Elon Musk visits Norway, he says he loves the country, and there is obviously a very good reason for that, because Norway has been incentivizing the hell out of EVs for the last decade. And that's the reason why we have the highest penetration of electric vehicles in the country. Now, so Fryer, we started out thinking that we could leverage the Norwegian benefits, which is availability of 100% renewable energy, which is also clean. So we have a shitload, pardon my French, of hydroelectric power in the country, and it's actually quite cost effective. And producing batteries is an energy intensive thing. So that was kind of a good starting point. Norway also have a century-long experience in producing energy-intensive and process-intensive products, which is really at the heart of what battery production is all about. To be cost competitive in producing batteries, Chris, you really need to produce at high speed, at high regularity, at high yield. You need to do it in a safe and quality-conscious manner. And on top of that century-long experience harnessing that hydroelectric power, as you might know, Norway is also an oil and gas producing nation. So we have built more than 100 oil and gas platforms out on the Norwegian continental shelf. And that's in extremely harsh terrain, okay? So that means that we've built 100 giga platforms or gigafactories out in the open waters on the Norwegian continental shelf. So we figured, let's use that giga development experience. Let's use that clean energy experience. let's use that EV penetration situation and build the cleanest battery solutions provider on the planet. So that's what we have started out doing. We in public via SPAC acquisition, we raised $1 billion to date through the public capital markets on the New York Stock Exchange. And today, beyond announcing Birgit to sort of lead us in the scale up of our journey, it is also sort of an interesting point in time for us, because since we went public, we have built our first factory, which is now operational. So we're producing batteries in that factory. These batteries, by the way, are based on a US-based technology, which I'll get back to in a second, why you should care about that. We have also started the development of our first gigafactory, which is something we label Giga Arctic, and that is the gigafactory we're developing in Norway, right next to our first prototype facility. And we have captured land and acquired land in Georgia to build what we label Giga America. So we are a, let's say, both sides of the Atlantic gigafactory developer using a US-based technology called 24M. It's an MIT spin-off that have been 13 years in the making, which have revolutionized, in our opinion, both the battery design itself, but also how the batteries are produced. Now, why investors should care about this is a technology that offers 20 to 25% cost savings relative to conventional technology. So if you're able to do that at gigawatt hour scale, you're able to be on the left-hand side of the cost curve. And we combine that with an ambition to be the cleanest and most effective producer of that next generation disruptive technology. Now, we have started up our first facility, which has a full industrial scale production line, which are starting now to move into fully automated production of these next generation battery cells. And that really is the catalyst for us to unlock large scale project level financing for our Giga America project. And we're also about to enter into the, let's call it, final pieces of negotiation with the Norwegian government for their support of our Giga Arctic project. So, Chris, in short, we are a clean battery solutions provider. We're building gigafactories on both sides of the Atlantic. Our initial footprint for these two factories is north of 60 gigawatt hours, which we believe we can generate about 20 to 25% EBITDA margins on. And in a world where batteries are sold at $90 to $100 a kilowatt hour, your readers can do the math. This is a very, very interesting proposition. The onus is on us to prove that we can produce these batteries at scale and at pace and at yield and so on. But we have assembled 400 of the brightest people in Norway and some of the brightest, battery experts around the world. And we're going to grow from there. And we couldn't be happier. And now with the new CEO coming on board and me taking the role as the chairman, we are set for our scaling phase and sort of rapid, let's call it S-curve climb. And then from there, we can replicate more and more factories, both in the US and around the world. Final thing I'll say, Chris, and then, I'll let you sort of chime in with any question you might have. The Inflation Reduction Act in the US, which I'm sure that you and your readers are well versed in, is the poster child when it comes to climate mitigation. It really has driven multiple companies like us and others to accelerate their plans to deploy clean energy technology solutions in the US. The incentives that are embedded in the Inflation Reduction Act really drive capital formation and investment intent into the American market. And we have always sort of thought that when the US wakes up to the energy transition, that this will really move fast. And when the Inflation Reduction Act came, we just said, okay, now it's time to put our, spike shoes on and start running a little bit faster. And that's what we're doing. We are growing our US team. We're building the Gigafactory in Coweta County, which is 30 minutes south of Atlanta in Georgia. We have excellent industrial site there at about 370 acres and ready to build the best Gigafactory in the US. So, Chris, that is FREYR in a nutshell.
Tom, I love all that color on the U.S., Giga America and also the Inflation Reduction Act, which I know you touched on today with that news announcement. I want to talk about a couple other items here while we've got you. The Energy Transition Acceleration Coalition with yourself, Siemens, Caterpillar, Glencore, and others. Can you tell our viewers what this is and also when we might get an update on an announcement that a major passenger vehicle OEM was in talks to join?
Yeah, sure, Chris. So we decided when we started the commissioning of our customer qualification plant, as we call it, which is this prototype line at industrial scale, which basically demonstrates the 24M technology at gigawatt hour scale. We also announced the Energy Transition Acceleration Coalition. And while that's a long and sort of complicated name, what it really boils down to is the energy transition in front of us is so capital intensive. It encompasses so many parts of the value chain. And to do that and to attract the right capital and to attract the right competence and to attract the right ability to take these things to scale quickly, we felt that we really needed to team up with some of the largest companies on the planet. So the initial membership is NYSEAMERICAN, which is the largest producer of electric engines on the planet today. So everything that has an electric engine in it, odds are that that is a NYSEAMERICAN engine. So all Apple, devices, for instance, most of them have NYSEAMERICAN engines in them, which is kind of a little known fact. All elevators around the world have NYSEAMERICAN engines in them. They have a large relationship with a very large European OEM and producing their next generation electric engines for their EV platforms. Second partner is Siemens, so the German giant, right? And Siemens is really, really good at digitizing production systems and creating automated systems to accelerate and improve how we produce whatever we produce. Digital twins, AI-enhanced machine learning stuff to make things better, to make them faster, et cetera, et cetera. Caterpillar, large, of course, US-based company, which want to electrify everything that is kind of off-highway applications. And then Glencore, the mining giant, which, of course, wants to electrify everything they're doing and decarbonize their own footprint. So that was the original sort of composition of that coalition. Now there are about 6 to 8 different companies that want to join the coalition. And that includes large energy companies, large utilities. It includes, people in the software space and people in other parts of, let's call it the adjacencies around electrification that want to play a role in this massive sort of energy transition in front of us. Now, the OEM that we have been, and we are talking to multiple OEMs, basically all large OEMs on the planet are in some way, shape, or form interested to discuss with battery companies. This particular OEM is a large European OEM that really want to participate in this coalition to see how we can drive tailor-made solutions for their applications in partnership with some of these other stakeholders. So stay tuned on when we're going to announce that. We are finding the best ways to identify let's call it bilateral and multilateral projects that will really benefit these guys, because we don't want to do this as just a, let's call it debate club, because many of these coalitions are, you get together, you sit and talk about climate change, and you sit and talk about, the slowness in the energy transition. We don't want to do that. We want to be very, very specific. What is a problem that we can solve for you? And how can we solve that problem together so that that benefits you commercially and us commercially? And that is what we're doing with all the other partners. And of course, there are linkages here between the other partners as well. So Chris, you should stay tuned. We're coming to a theater near you with real momentum also in the automotive OEM space.
I love the stay tuned. I'll be watching. Tom, last question here. I've read several analyst updates and notes about Freyr. It seems like more people are catching on to the story. You said that, batteries are being produced. For any investors out there who maybe didn't have the patience and they're wondering, what's the future look like for Freyr, where does the company stand now? And what are some of the key milestones we'll be looking forward to shortly?
Yeah, great, Chris. So we aspire to become a clean battery solutions champion. Our ambition is to have 200 gigawatt hours of yearly installed nameplate capacity by 2030. By 2030, we believe that the battery industry will have doubled cumulatively installed capacity maybe 4 times. And due to Wright's law and other sort of learning curve effects that some of your listeners might know, that means that battery prices will probably drop by 25, 30% relative to where they are today. At that point, because we are now in the process of scaling this disruptive US-based technology, and we're starting to produce batteries with that technology at gigawatt-hour scale, we will, as a company, be at the absolute forefront in the Western Hemisphere on producing cost-competitive batteries into a market which is insatiable. Batteries are included in everything that needs to be decarbonized, or let me modify that. It's included in at least 75% of everything that needs to be decarbonized. So any company that is able to, in particular in the Western Hemisphere, to produce batteries at scale and be cost competitive at that, have a very, very bright future. So what the investors or potential investors or new investors of FREYR, and everyone is welcome into this family of investors that we have, and it's growing, you should be looking for the fact that we are starting to produce batteries in the Western Hemisphere. We're starting that up now. We produced actually our first battery several months ago, and now we are moving into automated production. So we're increasing the speed of production, we're increasing the yield, we're increasing the uptime, we're applying AI-enhanced machine learning methodologies together with Siemens, who are working with NVIDIA and Amazon Web Services on this industrial metaverse to really sort of deploy cutting-edge solutions to really improve how batteries are produced. So what the viewers and or listeners should be looking for are those proof points. They are coming. We're catalyst-rich stock. So over the next 6 months, you will see more and more news from our side on more batteries, higher performance, higher speed, higher yields, funding coming from the Norwegian government, farming down the Giga America to large industrial and financial stakeholders, and so on and so forth. So we'd like to, of course, biased as we are, we'd like to look upon ourselves as a catalyst-rich stock over the next 6 months. So a lot of sort of proof points and events are going to sort of unfold the development of the stock. Final thing I'll say is we were a Luxembourg domiciled company. We announced today that we're re-domiciling to the US, and that is due to index inclusion and getting more passive funds, behind our stock. And we believe once we've done that, which we will do by the end of the year, that the demand for our stock, just by passive, if you like, investment dollars coming behind it, will probably go up by up to 50% of our market cap today. So anyway, let's see. We are humble Norwegians to the extent that you can say that about Vikings, right? But we have the highest penetration of electric vehicles on the planet. Everything in Norway is being electrified. We understand a little bit more about batteries and electrification than many other countries around the world. And hopefully, that competence can be applied to developing FREYR into the clean battery solutions champion that we're aspiring it to become.
Love it. Well, Tom Jensen, CEO, FREYR Battery, named the chairman of the company today. Tom, we will stay tuned, and we look forward to talking to you soon.
Thanks, Chris. Pleasure to be here.
All right, everyone. Thanks again to Tom there. I don't have to kick it to anyone because the next interview is going to be done by me once again. So I am excited to get to our next guest. Joining us on the program, we have Austin Wood from Wallbox, that ticker WBX. Austin, welcome to the show. Oh, I think you're muted, Austin.
Classic.
There he is.
You'd think that after years of doing this, I would have figured it out by now. But thanks for having me. I think this is actually the second time we've spoke because I think I spoke with you right before we IPO'd on the New York Stock Exchange. So great to be in contact again.
I believe that is correct. Yeah, what a crazy time. And yeah, I mean, our event today covering electric vehicles. That's why I'm so excited to chat with you again. A lot of topics to get to. I want to talk first about the strong delivery figures for the Supernova DC fast charger. Walk us through the shifting trend we're seeing to fast chargers within the sector.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we just announced that in just about over a year, we have delivered more than 1,000 DC fast chargers. So this is, an amazing growth. And we started as a company that was very focused on AC home charging. So from AC home charging, we've expanded into the semi-public space, and then we launched this new business unit just last year. So, and it really is a new business unit. It requires a completely different set of skills, sales pitch, engineering. And so it does really speak to the engineering capacity that Wallbox has and that we built up over the past couple of years. And it speaks to the growing demand in the industry, as you pointed out. The USA, Biden has said that we need to install over 500,000 chargers before 2030. Europe has said 1 million before 2030, and we have to put we have to put fast chargers every 60 kilometers or every 50 miles. So the amount of hardware that we have to put into the ground is enormous. And I think the growth that we've seen just in the past couple of years within this business unit really speaks to that.
Wonderful. Yeah. Speaking of growth, we have this big topic within the EV sector of the North American charging standard, Tesla and several others, partnering now. Walk us through how Wallbox is embracing this incorporation from several of the key players into your DCFC and why this is so important to kind of move that needle forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd say it applies to DC fast charging, and it'll also apply in the future to the AC chargers. And this change, it definitely was one of those surprise announcements. Tesla, Ford came out, and it seemed like catching the world by storm. But it's not the first type of industry shift that we have seen, right? The EV industry, both vehicles as well as charging, is evolving extremely rapidly. And so what this means is that you need, and we need, to create a company that is able and adept at handling these fast evolutions and the changes within the industry. So the NACS announcement, we think, is great. We are super excited by it because it speaks to the standardization that's happening within the industry. And when there's more standardization, when consumers and drivers feel like they're not going to have to download a different app or change their charger type or figure out what the world of EVs, when it's just a little bit simpler, we think that there's going to be faster adoption of electric vehicles. And anytime there's faster adoption of electric vehicles, we support that. So we will be customizing, and we will be adding the NACS standard to our chargers in the US in the year to come. And so we fully support that transition, and we're excited by it.
Awesome. So we always love talking, milestones and recent events here on Benzinga. And I couldn't help but notice that yesterday, Wallbox announced several milestones, including 500,000 EV chargers sold and 1 million users worldwide. Walk us through why these milestones are important and what they say about the overall success of Wallbox.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a little bit about DC, and we've now talked a little bit about AC. But just to back up a little bit on what Wallbox does, we started back in 2015, a Barcelona-based company, and essentially we set out first to solve the problem of home charging. We know that home charging is going to be about where 80% of electric vehicle charging happens from now and into the future. And we've seen really spectacular growth since then. As you just mentioned, Chris, we've sold now more than 500,000 chargers. The large majority of those chargers are our AC home chargers. And from the AC chargers, we've then moved into semi-public chargers and into the public sector. So now we have a comprehensive portfolio for home, semi-public, and public charging environments. So really any type of charging needs that our customers have, we can cover at various different speeds. So now we go from 22 kilowatt chargers all the way up to 150 kilowatts with a 400 kilowatt charger to come. And we're global. And so you really, nowadays, you don't see very many global EV charging companies. And that's because the product requirements for all of these different companies and all of the countries around the world is extremely complex. So when you look at the energy requirements in the UK, they're different from that from Spain, and they're different from Germany, and they're very different from those in the US. And we have to have the engineering base, the operations line, the customer service to be able to accommodate those changes, those language, those marketing preferences. So really we have to build that structure, and that's what we have, raised money to be able to do. That's why we IPO'd, so that we can become one of the global leaders in the EV charging space. And so with the 500,000 chargers sold, and the one piece that we didn't get to talk too much is the 1 million users registered on our platforms. We think that we're able to do that. And, that software piece is really important because we have a couple of different software apps that we distribute through our chargers, and they allow us to do really crucial energy management features. So imagine being able to charge your car using your solar panel energy, or imagine that you're a business owner and that you need to manage different users and reimburse them through their bills, or manage the changing energy prices throughout the day. And you want to make sure that your employees are only charging at certain times. Those are the type of functionalities that we're able to enable through our apps. And we think that this adoption speaks to, the success, the usability, and the user friendliness of those products.
Love that. On that 1 million customer, we do have a couple questions here in the chat. What country is Wallbox's largest target market? And also, which country has the highest demand currently?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have our top markets right now are the top EV markets around the world, excluding China. So within Europe, that would be UK, France, Germany, Italy, the Nordics country, and of course, Spain, our home country. And then the US is growing very quickly as well. So the US now, I believe we reported, represents about 20% of all of our sales. And we really believe that the demand and all of the legislation that's been passed in the US is going to make that market grow extremely quickly. So, Europe grew very quickly over the past couple of years, but is tapering off. It's all relative, right? It's still growing quite quickly in terms of other industries around the world, but the US is growing much quicker. I think it's anticipated to grow about 50% over the next couple of years. So really big pushes from governments, from utility companies, from corporations that are driving this growth.
Wallbox announced a retail partnership with Costco earlier this year to carry the Pulsar Plus in stores and online. Can you share with viewers what that initial reaction has been to this product and being able to get it in Costco stores?
It's been fantastic. I think it speaks to the type of product that we have, right? Traditionally, products or EV chargers are these big, bulky products, lots of wires. They look more like the fuse boxes behind your walls. And what Wallbox set out to do, what our CEO and co-founder Enrique set out to do, was make it much more like the phones that we have in our pocket, right? Reduce the size, add intelligence, add all of these different energy management capabilities. And so we've seen some really great adoption with our Pulsar product all throughout the US, whether that's with Costco, Uber, a handful of different distributors. So it is a product that much more resembles a consumer electronic device versus an electrical appliance. And for that reason, we've seen some adoption from really great names, brand names, and also distribution names.
Another announcement from Wallbox was this push with the Department of Energy for V2X, vehicle to everything. For viewers out there, what is V2X and why could it be important for the future? Yeah,
great question. So V2X is, just as you said, it's vehicle to everything. So there's essentially this capability that we have through our chargers, which is called bidirectionality, right? So that means that you can take energy from the grid, you can charge your car with it, but then you can take that energy out of your car and discharge it back into your home or back into the grid. So it essentially turns your car battery, into a huge battery on wheels, right? Which means that it serves as a backup power device. It means that you can essentially do energy arbitrage. So charge your car when energy is cheaper, use it in your home, or sell it back into the grid. And also charge your car or use energy that is much greener. So imagine that you have solar panels and you charge your car using energy from your solar panels. Then later at night, you have the choice to either take dirtier energy from the grid or take the clean energy that you generated from your car. And so it's really unlocks all of these different potentials, not just for cost savings, but also for what Wallbox mission is, which is accelerating the transition to renewable energy through electric mobility. And as you mentioned, we've been selected to work with the Department of Energy, and that's because we've been pioneers on this topic since 2019. We launched our Quasar 1 back in 2019, which was the first bidirectional DC charger for the home. We did some really important strategic projects for this project all around the world, whether it's in the UK, in Germany, in Australia. And we've been able to take all of that knowledge and apply it to the second iteration of this product, Quasar 2, which is now a CCS enabled product and is compatible with all the different CCS brands around the world. So, most popular European and North American brands. And with that, we are working with the Department of Energy, and essentially what we're doing with them, and also many major OEMs around the world, car OEMs, is helping them establish the communication protocols with the charger. So we're able to play a really industry-leading role here in teaching all these different entities the best way to communicate. And obviously that positions Wallbox quite well when we figure out the standards for the entire industry.
So Austin, Wallbox has a goal of break-even adjusted EBITDA in the fourth quarter and for the next fiscal year. What steps has the company taken to reach this important milestone?
Yeah, absolutely. And we obviously are in a very different financial environment than we were when we IPO'd in 2021. And because of that, we've implemented some really aggressive cost savings programs, and also we're looking for efficiencies anywhere we can across the company. So we announced a $50 million cost saving program earlier this year. We are on track in terms of hitting our cost saving goals. And we've also, in our last earnings call just a couple of weeks ago, reiterated that we are so confident in our ability to meet our profitability, our break-even objectives for the end of this year. And of course, if anything changes, we will be in touch with the market about that.
Austin, last question here that I've been asking several guests. We're seeing some consolidation in several industries within the EV sector. Any comments on potential consolidation within the charging sector? And is Wallbox currently active looking at acquisition targets?
Yeah, it's a great question. And you're spot on. The rapid changes in the industry make it a very volatile and difficult industry to operate in. With the changing subsidies, the changing regulations, you really need to have this verticalized model that Wallbox has developed, and which has allowed us to kind of gain this leadership position within the industry. We always look at different acquisition targets. I previously ran our corporate development team for the past 3 years before switching to chief of staff. So, we're always looking at companies that could potentially accelerate our business plan. So whether that's expansion into new markets, expansion into new products. Obviously, we're coming at it with a little bit of a different lens, in terms of reaching those profitability goals that I mentioned before. But anytime we can find synergies and accelerate our business plan, we're always eager to look at those opportunities. And then secondly, I'd say that in terms of the market fragmentation, we've also seen a couple of companies that have recently gone under, right? And I think that goes back to kind of the changing regulation, the changing subsidies, how difficult it is within this market, and speaks to the foundation that Wallbox has been able to set up.
Austin, I love that answer. Love the honesty, hearing directly from the source here on what Wallbox may be considering. So we'll definitely stay tuned. Austin Wood, Chief of Staff, Wallbox, that ticker again, WBX. Austin, thanks so much for joining us on the show And as always, I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Great to be in touch. Thanks for your time.
All right. A big thank you to Austin from Wallbox once again. That concludes our interviews today. I want to thank all of our guests that joined us on Driving the Future with Electric Vehicles, our virtual presentation. And a big thank you to Aaron and Zunaid from the Benzinga team for helping out with those great interviews. One more thank you to our sponsors, Volt Equity, Hillcrest Energy Technologies, New Inc., and Wallbox for their support of this webinar. And another thank you goes out to our technology partner, Daily Hunt. And lastly, a big thank you to all of our viewers for taking the time to join us today and tune in. This concludes our Driving the Future with Electric Vehicle virtual event. Be sure to check out our upcoming live and virtual events at benzinga.com/events. From the entire team here at Benzinga, thanks for joining us, and I hope to see you at another Benzinga event real soon. Coming up next here on Benzinga's YouTube, we have Cannabis Insider. So I guess from one green sector of EV to another green sector, cannabis, quite the programming today for you. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, and we will see you soon. Thanks.